As your friend, if you do something in the streets, he'll let the streets kill you to maintain the street rule. That's why a lot of his friends is dead and the dark cloud sits over his head. See, when you so down with the streets, homie, you'll have one of your partners here, like Boosie was doing, upholding them street rules. Any man that constantly hide his eyes is not to be trusted. That's the window to the soul. Man, you look a person in his eyes, man, when you hiding your eyes, you hiding something. And Boosie hide his eyes a lot. He will not let you look into his eyes. He done crossed a lot of friends upholding.
Not out in the open, but behind closed doors, whispers were spreading like wildfire. The talk in private circles was that Jay Prince didn't lose sleep seeing Boosie caught up in a federal mess. While that buzz grew louder, Boosie's legal team was knee-deep in the paperwork, combing through every shred of evidence, and it all pointed back to one thing, that Instagram live clip. The feds had no wiretaps, no controlled buys, no snitches ready to flip on him, nothing but a shaky, grainy, seconds-long video. But to them, that was enough. Add in the fact that Boosie was already a convicted felon, and suddenly, that little clip became the centerpiece of their case.
Man, what Rochelle at, man? Better fuck something, man. I ain't got my Boosie fade filled up in a little purple up. Who that is? Oh, what up, babe? I heard you just fuck with that nigga Trey the dummy and shit, you heard me? What a bitch? Man, this nigga that killed Plea, bitch. You ain't think I'm coming for you, bitch ass. What nigga you killed Plea? Yeah, you ain't think I'm coming for you, bitch ass, nigga. Nigga, what you want, bro? You want the chain? You want for money, bitch. You want I want everything. Hold on, bro. Let's get it. Let's get it, man. Let's get it. Bitch. No, look, here's the money. So I'm gonna be right now. I'm gonna give you that new Boosie CD, man. You know, before, after you kill me. Oh, now let me get the new motherfucker.
His lawyers tried to argue, saying the video didn't prove a thing. It could have been anything tucked in his waistband. But the prosecution came back swinging, breaking it down frame by frame, zooming in, enhancing images, making it look like undeniable proof. Behind the scenes, that hit hard. Soon the word plea started floating around like smoke in the air. See, federal court ain't the streets. There's no bluffing with the government. They've got the time, the money, and the power to bury anyone under mountains of discovery. Boosie had a choice. Stand tall, roll the dice, and risk years locked away, or take the deal being offered and cut his losses. But this wasn't no soft deal. It came with restrictions, supervised release.
You come stand there, you get hit with bitch. Big dick on that Boosie banging ass. Yeah, man. It was messing for Slim, man. Messing for Slim? Yeah, man. Bitch, you work for Loco? No, it's messing. You work for Loco? You ain't crazy, man. Yeah, you crazy, man. This is what you feel, man. Come on, man. You told me I'm snitching and die, man. It's a dirty, dirty world that we live in. Who the fuck that is coming? Right here, nigga. Huh? You can't make it. Somebody slashed out your tires. Slash on, bitch, tires, shit.
Probation terms so tight that touring, traveling, and living free would turn into a nightmare. Still, it was better than staring down a long federal sentence. Plea deals in the feds aren't just about guilt or innocence, they're about survival. And when word leaked that Boosie might be leaning toward a deal, the streets lit up. Suddenly, Jay Prince's name came creeping back into the conversation. Online chatter had people speculating, did the Houston mogul have some kind of hand in the way the feds turned up the pressure? Or was his pull in certain circles enough to make Boosie's allies vanish when he needed them most? The beef wasn't loud, but it was undeniable. You could hear it in the silence, the way they stopped speaking on each other's names. You could see it in the way mutual associates started quietly picking sides.
He's a real gangster.
Is he really?
Like, he's a real gangster. Wow. And that's the thing that people don't realize about Boosie. Like, Boosie got like 30 to 40 around him all the time. And if you touch Boosie, something's gonna happen to you. Something's gonna happen to you.
And by the time Boosie finally stood in front of that judge, that shaky Instagram live video wasn't just a clip anymore. It was the anchor dragging down his whole case. He didn't admit to every single detail, but the plea deal forced him to acknowledge just enough for the court to slam him with a conviction. The words were short, carefully scripted by his lawyers, but the tone in Boosie's voice carried the real weight. As he stepped out the courthouse that day, cameras flashed like crazy, catching him with an expression tight enough to cut glass. It wasn't a scowl, but it sure wasn't relief either. He knew the plea deal kept him in play, but it also strapped him with invisible chains. From now on, every move would be tracked, every city stop checked, every mistake magnified. One wrong slip could send him straight back behind bars. Out in the streets, the arguments were split. Some said he made the smart move, choosing survival over pride. Others swore it showed weakness.
But as for the Boosie incident, the so-called beef with me and Lil Boosie, I ain't got no beef with Boosie because I talked to him. I talked to him maybe 4.5 months ago at the airport. I flew in from Mexico. I got a call that he was getting off the airplane. He was on his way to Baton Rouge because I knew somebody on the plane. I said, damn, this is the perfect time I can go catch him while he by himself.
Right.
Where ain't no entourage, it's just me and you, you know. Now, he wasn't acting like no nothing. You know, he stood up like a man. He talked to me. He told me that he ain't never crossed me. He ain't had nothing against me. He told me to look up to me in the streets. And I told him, well, my feelings were hurt because nigga told me to yank my sign down, which was petty.
That the Boosie they knew would have fought tooth and nail. And down in Houston, Jay Prince kept his silence, handling business like nothing happened. He didn't need to speak Boosie's name. In certain battles, silence itself cuts the deepest. For Boosie, that silence hit like a bullet. This fight was far from finished. The plea deal closed one courtroom chapter, but it cracked open a whole new one in the chess match between him and Jay Prince. Both men understood the South wasn't big enough for a full-blown war, but now the air between them was thick with unspoken rules and old grudges that wouldn't fade. And lurking in the background was that cursed Instagram live clip, not just evidence anymore.
But it was big to me because I feel like we know each other and I just talked to you, and for you to do that is like you shitting on my dream, bro, you know? So, told me didn't do it. I told him, well, shit, ain't no beef, you know, just like I say, when I say things about people on songs, people gonna blow it up because they think it's gonna be, you know, but just don't know I'm entertaining my listeners, and I talk about anybody, you know. I could be with my boy, and when he make me mad, I might jot a line about his ass, you might see it later on. Right. So make a long story short, people done caught on to it, ain't nobody really tripping. Personal. No, it ain't nothing personal, you know, like I said, I told him, I said, man, I'd be less than a man to do you something behind some he said, she said, when I could just come approach you, because we know each other. You know, I know you and you know me.
But a haunting reminder of how fast the game can flip. Just seconds on camera, and the power shifted in ways nobody saw coming. Then came another twist that shook Baton Rouge. Word hit the block that Boosie's alleged hitman had been convicted for the murder of Bleak, a man once considered family. Instantly, the streets lit up with whispers and heavy rumors. Some folks said it was bound to happen eventually.
Picked up a teen accused of another teen that set off a series of retaliation shootings in Old South Baton Rouge.
That shooting started a rash of shootings that occurred in that particular area.
Others claimed there was way more to the story, but nothing, absolutely nothing, could prepare anyone for what went down inside that courtroom the day the sentence dropped. Something's going to happen to you. That chilling line echoed through the case, and the prosecution wasted no time turning it into their battle cry. For months, they built their case piece by piece, like stacking a deadly puzzle. They told the jury this wasn't just another street shooting. This was a hit, a cold-blooded execution meant to send a message loud and clear. They laid the evidence out like dominoes falling one after another, phone calls traced just hours before the murder.
I had did it because I had wanted to I always think about marketing. You know what I'm saying? I thought it'd be an easier way to catch people's ear, and it worked. It did. You know what I'm saying? I did it. I took Boosie's album cover, took him off, put me on it, and I did it. But once you listen to the album, I had no disc. It wasn't a disc record. It just was something I wanted to just be different, be exclusive, you know? A lot of people took it the wrong way. A lot of people understood what I was doing, and they commended me for it. And the music spoke for itself.
Cell tower pings placing the suspect right near the scene, and a ballistics match tying the weapon to other unsolved shootings. Then came the dagger, a witness who knew the plan before it even went down. At first, this witness kept their lips sealed, but once the pressure hit, the story spilled out like floodwater. They described secret meetings, coded conversations, and even a payout that followed Bleek's death. Every word had the jury locked in, leaning forward, hanging on the details. Meanwhile, in that tense courtroom, Bleek's mother sat in the front row every single day. She never blinked, never turned away, her eyes locked on the man accused of taking her son's life. In her hands was a folded photograph of Bleek, the edges worn soft from being held so many times it was practically falling apart.
Courthouse in Baton Rouge, where the jury has returned a not guilty verdict in the murder trial of Torrance Hatch, Lil Boosie. A jury of 9 women and 3 men took about an hour to come to this decision, not guilty for Boosie. He is already serving time right now in Angola on drug charges, an 8-year sentence there. You're looking at pictures outside District Court in downtown Baton Rouge. There was a huge crowd inside, outside the courtroom.
The defense fought back with everything they had, painting a different picture. They called the alleged hitman a product of his environment, raised in poverty, drowned in violence, and forced into impossible choices just to survive. They pushed hard, saying the evidence wasn't solid enough, that nothing directly proved he pulled the trigger. And then, almost out of nowhere, another twist slid into the narrative, the Boosie connection. The whispers about beef, about hidden ties were thick in the air. But one voice stepped in to cool the fire.
Again, the Sheriff's Department says local rapper Torrance Hatch, better known as Lil Boosie, was arrested today on aggravated second-degree battery charges from a fight they say happened at his house on April the 12th. Sheriff's officials say when Boosie and a few others showed up at the house, there was some sort of a confrontation about the man stealing one of Boosie's necklaces. We're told that's when a fight broke out. Fists and possibly even a vase were used in the fight. One man was taken to the hospital with non-threatening injuries.
As for the Boosie incident, the so-called beef, me and Lil Boosie, I ain't got no beef with Boosie, the man said. I talked to him, maybe 4.5 months ago. We crossed paths at the airport. I was flying in from Mexico. I got a call that he was getting off the airplane, the voice recalled. He was on his way to Baton Rouge. I knew somebody on the flight. I said, damn, this is the perfect time.
Say, Chief, y'all need to ask this thief these questions. Why you and Blue couldn't call Boosie and tell him about the deal? Why did it have to be behind his back? Why did you have to forge his signature? If he knew nothing about the deal, why did you put his signature on the paper? Why are you always being accused of stealing from your brother?
I can catch him while he's by himself. That chilling confession painted the setup in sharp detail, making the jury lean in with uneasy silence. The prosecutors hammered the point home. If you're not 100% sure, you can't take a man's life. But in the end, the jury wasn't filled with doubt. They saw cold-blooded execution. And when the verdict came back guilty on capital murder, the entire courtroom felt heavy, like the air itself dropped.
Talk. I don't give a about you waking up saying nothing. You won't answer the phone line. I'll tell you on it. I'll tell you. I'll tell you to your face. You don't scare me. You don't scare me.
The next step was sentencing, and prosecutors made it brutally clear. They wanted the maximum, death. Sentencing day arrived and the atmosphere was electric with tension. The gallery was overflowing, reporters scribbling notes, family members holding each other close, locals who had followed every twist of the case crammed into the benches. Everyone knew something historic was about to happen. When the judge spoke, his voice cut through the silence like a hammer hitting steel. I hereby sentence you to death. Each word echoed in the room, shaking everyone to their core. At first, the defendant sat frozen, his face blank, the same cold mask he'd worn through the entire trial. But then, out of nowhere, he broke the silence in a way nobody expected. He turned his head, locking eyes directly with the victim's mother. And in a voice low but strong enough for the whole room to hear, he said, "I'm sorry. I know I can't bring him back. I was wrong." The words hung in the air like smoke. The mother didn't flinch, didn't cry. She just held his gaze with a face carved from grief and steel defiance. Some in the gallery squirmed in their seats. Others tried to fight back tears. Even the court reporter, who had been typing every second of testimony, lifted her head from the machine just to take in the moment. Deputies moved in fast, snapping cuffs around his wrists, and began leading him toward the side door. Each step echoed in silence, but before disappearing, he glanced back one last time at the victim's family, maybe searching for forgiveness, maybe just burning one final image of the pain he caused. That stare carried more weight than words ever could. Outside, chaos exploded. Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters swarmed like vultures, shoving microphones in every direction, shouting questions over each other. The prosecutor stepped forward, declaring to the press that justice had been served. Meanwhile, the defense attorney admitted it was one of the toughest cases of his career, saying, "My client wanted to speak from the heart. He knows it won't change the outcome." The victim's family, tired and broken, slipped quietly past the press swarm, refusing to give the cameras anything more than their silence. They didn't need words. Their faces told it all. Grief, loss, and wounds that no sentence could heal. In Baton Rouge, this case became bigger than one man's death. It turned into a symbol of the streets. How loyalty can twist into betrayal. How codes that once promised respect can end in blood. People debated endlessly whether his apology was genuine or just a last-minute move to save face before the needle. But real or fake, that moment, those words, will echo long after the headlines fade. And now, with the death sentence locked in, the countdown has started. Appeals may come, lawyers might scramble, paperwork will fly, but the path ahead is written in stone. For a man who once lurked in the shadows, the road ends exactly where the state says it ends. In this story, there are no happy endings, no redemption arcs, only loss, regret, and the cold reminder of what happens when lives are taken in the name of power. But while the hitman's fate was sealed inside that courtroom, the shockwaves didn't stop at the prison gates. They spread straight back into Baton Rouge and Houston. On the block, folks whispered that this wasn't just about one man going down. It was about the ripple effect, and every ripple led back to Boosie's name. See, with that death sentence stamped, the talk got louder. Was Boosie too close to the fire? People dug back into that Instagram live, replaying it, breaking it down like it was evidence of something bigger. The street said his past was catching up, that every move he made was now under a microscope. And Jay Prince, he stayed quiet, like always, but that silence spoke volumes. Some said he was watching from a distance, letting the storm burn itself out. Others claimed he was pulling strings in ways nobody could see. Either way, the space between him and Boosie got wider and the tension thicker, like two heavyweights circling without throwing punches. Yet, online, the debates were ruthless. Some said Boosie was smart for distancing himself, keeping his head down while the feds circled. Others swore it made him look weak, like he was scared to stand tall in the mess. Memes, posts, and blogs lit up with theories, dragging names, connecting dots that maybe weren't even there. But that's how the game works. Perception becomes reality when enough people repeat it. Behind all the chatter, one truth sat heavy. The South was watching. Every rapper, every hustler, every fan knew the spotlight was blazing hot, and one wrong move could flip the script overnight. Boosie's plea deal kept him free, but on a leash. The hitman's death sentence reminded everyone the feds weren't playing. And Jay Prince's silence left a question hanging in the air. Was this a chess game he was already winning? For now, Nobody had the full answer. But the streets don't stay quiet forever. And with so many eyes on Boosie, one thing was clear. This story wasn't anywhere close to finished. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and see you in the next video.